Seattle is a coastal seaport city, the largest in Washington state. Its nicknames include the Emerald City, the Rain City, and the Jet City. Seattle is situated on a narrow neck of land between the Puget Sound and Lake Washington. The history of the city started at least 4,000 years before the first European settlers. Native Americans were the original inhabitants of this land. The first Europeans who founded New York Alki, the future Seattle, were the group of settlers headed by Arthur A. Denny. Seattle is situated on 7 hills: Capitol Hill, First Hill, West Seattle, Beacon Hill, Queen Anne, Magnolia, and the former Denny Hill. One of the best places to enjoy a spectacular view is from Seattle's iconic landmark, the Space Needle. The visit to Seattle isn't complete without a trip up to the observation deck. At a height of 605 feet, the Space Needle offers stunning 360-degree views. On a clear day, you'll overlook downtown Seattle, surrounded by the Cascade and Olympic Mountains, Elliott Bay, Mount Baker, and Mount Rainier, all as you gaze from the observation deck, which is situated at 520 feet. By the way, a gift shop and the rotating Sky City restaurant are situated at 500 feet. The tower was originally built for the 1962 World's Fair and immediately became the symbol of the entire Pacific Northwest. The best views of the Seattle skyline are found along the waterfront. No wonder it's the city's biggest tourist attraction. This is a great place to relax, sample fresh seafood, take a boat ride, or visit the famous Pike Place Market. Evenings offer a chance to enjoy the brightly lit Seattle skyline. The Seattle skyline features the 19 tallest buildings in Washington. Topping them all at 937 feet is the Columbia Center. It was built in 1985, and at the time, the center was the second tallest building on the West Coast. The second tallest building in Seattle is located at 1201 3rd Avenue at 772 feet. Other local skyscrapers include 2 Union Square, the Seattle Municipal Tower, and Safeco Plaza. The Seattle Great Wheel is a giant Ferris wheel located at Pier 57. The wheel began operations June 29, 2012, and at that time was the tallest wheel on the West Coast, with an overall height of 175 feet. The Port of Seattle is a district that covers both Seattle's Seaport and SeaTac Airport. It's also known as the Green Gateway for trade and travel. The Port of Seattle has over 60 acres of parks and public access places, including scenic bike and pedestrian trails, picnic areas, habitat restoration areas, fishing piers, and shoreline access. The oldest skyscraper in Seattle is the Smith Tower, built in 1912. The tower had been one of the city's tallest buildings until the Space Needle was constructed in 1962 for the World's Fair. The Smith Tower is a popular tourist destination, especially because of the beautiful Chinese room on the 35th floor, which features a hand-carved ceiling and Chinese furniture. There's also a famous observation deck where you can enjoy the Seattle skyline at night. The city of Quincy is located just 10 miles north from the heart of Washington State, and the drive along I-90 is truly picturesque. The area is known as a tourist and recreational paradise. Driving along this road is a treat. Enjoy fabulous views, gorgeous natural beauty, speed, and wind in your hair. On your way to Quincy, you'll cruise along the unbelievably blue waters of the Columbia River. As you travel along the road, you'll be treated to breathtaking scenery. You'll definitely want to stop along the way and check out the scenic vistas and views of the Columbia River. The Columbia River is famous for being the final part of the Lewis and Clark expedition. The river rises high in the Canadian Rockies, flows through Washington, and then forms the border between Washington and Oregon during its last 100 miles. The Columbia River flows into the Pacific Ocean near Astoria, Oregon, and Ilwaco, Washington. In keeping with the gorgeous surroundings of the Columbia River, the builders of these man-made structures tried especially hard to make them look equally beautiful. Along the way, you'll see professional stonework and beautifully built concrete arches. A surreal landscape greets visitors in Quincy Lake's wildlife area. It's very desert-like and doesn't get much rain. The sandy trail runs through the wild desert, opening classic views of the prairie. On this trail, hikers are treated to a beautiful landscape of dramatic basalt cliffs, red-walled coulees, and columns with miraculous layers of basalt, which were laid down during the ancient lava flows. It seems that life is not possible in this area, but the trail takes you to beautiful lakes which expand into small areas of wetlands and marsh. These potholes with sparkling water surrounded by massive basalt cliffs offer a shelter for birds, deer, small mammals, and the local insects. The geological wonder, huge basalt rocks, are considered to be a result of the erosion of lava flows. Ancient Lakes Trail is one of the most hiked trails in this region, as it offers classical views of the wilderness as well as unexpected views of the waterfall in this desert terrain. This unusual waterfall gives us the opportunity to imagine the scenery of 12,000 years ago, when numerous gigantic floods flushed through this area. We can only imagine how the powerful water would have poured over the cliffs, carving out miraculous lakes, heading down the coulee and then finding its peace in the Columbia River. Dusty Lake Trail is a 3-mile out and back trail that presents classic eastern Washington geology. The sandy trail runs through the desert and takes hikers to old and magnificent basalt cliffs that tell you more about the history and geology of the region than any other guide. The coulee is made up of fragile cryptogenic soil, and stepping off the trail quickly destroys the fragile crust, speeds erosion, and adds to the loss of vegetation. We encourage you to stick to the trails that already exist. The lake at the end of the trail is a real treat, nestled in the deep coulee and attracting hikers with sparkling blue waters. By the way, this lake is great for fly fishing, and dogs are also allowed in this region. Seen from various viewpoints along I-90, 15 lifelike horse sculptures stand at the top of the ridge overlooking the Columbia River. David Govadair, a Spokane artist, created these sculptures out of welded steel. Vantage Road is a winding road on a hill with magnificent views in all directions. The winding Blue River on one side and basalt walls on the other side offer fabulous views of our incredible state. Frenchman Coulee is a great horizontal as well as vertical route. A wonderful hiking trail along massive basalt walls is a must-visit destination in Quincy area. Not only hikers, but also climbers adore these basalt columns. From the trailhead, the path runs straight to the rocks. Enjoy watching rock climbers as they show off their perfected skills. These columns were created out of rivers of lava that flooded this region thousands of years ago. The lava shrank when it crystallized into solid rock, and then shrank a bit more when the rock cooled. The shape and structure of these basalt cliffs makes it vulnerable to erosion by floods. The most fabulous and dramatic rock formation in the region is the Feathers, a group of towering polygonal columns, which are so named because they look like a row of crow feathers that are stuck in the ground. Climbers love this place that was created by the power of water. The basalt walls of Frenchman Coulee frame a valley filled with sage and wildflowers. This coulee is one of the most awesome features left behind by the Great Ice Age floods. A truly scenic highway. Magnificent views to the right and to the left. This route is a marvel for its incredible scenery, magnificent overlooks of the Columbia River, and rich history of the region. Horse Thief Butte Trail is a hiker's delight. Meadows are covered with colorful wildflowers, lupine, balsam root, white biscuit root, salt and pepper lomatium, yellow bells, and many other flowers cover the ground. Another feature of the area is western film scenery. An easy hike will take you to the butte that dominates the skyline of the Columbia Hills State Park. At the top of the horseshoe-shaped natural monument, you'll find spectacular views of the Columbia River and Horse Thief Lake. Horse Thief Butte is created out of hexagonal columns of Wanapum basalt flows, which were cleansed of most of their soil by the end of the last ice age. The Olympic Peninsula is the land of diversity. On the west, it borders with the Pacific Ocean, on the east with the Hood Canal, and on the north with the Strait of Juan de Fuca. The majestic Olympic Mountains are a natural marvel of the area. Nowhere in the U.S. will you find such diversity in weather and terrain. Deep rainforests, fabulous beaches, snow-capped mountains, and inviting meadows and waterfalls. Olympic National Park is often called three parks in one. First, tourists enjoy the wild ocean and coastal trails. Second, they're amazed by the incredible rainforest, which is considered to be one of the wettest places in all of North America. And finally, massive and at the same time tender mountains covered with snow and glaciers. Olympic Peninsula provides some amazing sights of pristine beaches, marine wildlife, and shorelines decorated with dramatic sea stacks and driftwood logs. Upper Hoh Road is the main 13.2-mile road that brings you to the magic Hoh Rainforest. The Scenic Road gives tourists the real opportunity to enjoy the fabulous beauty of the old trees covered in moss. To say the scenery along the way is spectacular is an understatement. One of the real treasures of the Olympic Peninsula is the Hoh Rainforest, a not-to-be-missed attraction that is situated in the heart of the Olympic National Park. The moss-covered giant trees attract millions of tourists every year. Usually, the Pacific Ocean air brings lots of rainfall to this part of the peninsula, creating perfect conditions for a temperate rainforest. Annual precipitation of up to 150 inches makes this king of the forests one of the wettest places in North America, and as a result, unnaturally lush and vividly green. Hiking trails range from easy walks to multiple day trips. The Hall of Mosses and Spruce Trail will take you through nature's greatest cathedral of trees, and are both easily accessible for most people. The Hoh rainforest is very special. Trees here may be more than 1,000 years old, and every tree is covered with its own plant life, making it an individual small microcosm. Some of the trees are 25 feet around and reach heights of up to 300 feet. It's interesting that nearly every bit of space is taken up with a living plant. The mountains prevent severe weather conditions, and very often the canopy of trees, mosses, and ferns won't allow the snow to cover the ground because of its thickness. The most predominant species of the Hoh rainforest are Sitka spruce, coastal Douglas fir, western red cedar, vine maple, red alder, and black cottonwood. As for the species of the fauna, the most dominant are Olympic black bears, raccoons, northern spotted owls, cougars, bobcats, and black-tailed deer. The Scenic roads are a part of the North Cascades Loop, a 440-mile stretch of roads in the state of Washington. They offer drivers perfect opportunities to enjoy inspiring mountains, picturesque river valleys, and breathtaking views of Lake Chelan and the Columbia River. Lake Chelan is one of the most famous recreation areas in Washington state and very popular during the summer. Vacationers come to the lake to enjoy endless types of water recreation, such as water skiing, kayaking, canoeing, rowing, tubing, and windsurfing. You'll see boats of all different shapes and sizes touring the lake. Chelan County is one of Washington's fastest growing wine regions. That will be obvious as you drive through the hills surrounding the town of Manson during the summer. You'll pass acre after acre of high quality grapes. Manson is also becoming famous for its vineyards. This area offers excellent conditions for growing wine grapes with its wonderful soil and climate. There are now over a dozen wineries in the area that invite you to stop by and sample the fruits of their labors. Lake Chelan is simply perfect. This 50.5-mile-long glacier-fed pristine lake and the surrounding Cascade Mountains provide a picturesque background for an unforgettable vacation. Choose from the comforts of a South End hotel or join the outdoor types that descend upon the area every year in the various campgrounds. Mount St. Helens is an active stratovolcano located in the Pacific Northwest region of the United States. The mountain is located 96 miles south of Seattle and was named in honor of the British diplomat Lord St. Helens, a friend of the explorer George Vancouver, who arrived here in the late 18th century. Mount St. Helens is well known for the eruption that occurred on May 18, 1980. A huge debris avalanche was caused by an earthquake that resulted in the reduction of the mountain's elevation from 9,677 feet to 8,365 feet. A massive cloud of ash was launched into the sky, with even more ash sent by a proclastic flow down the Cowlitz and Toutle rivers, destroying everything in its path. This eruption had an unexpected result. The mountain has since become an attraction, and tourism has become one of the major industries of Cowlitz County. Over 500,000 people visit here annually to enjoy the majestic views. Nowadays, Coldwater Lake is a wonderful and peaceful 750-acre lake. However, this lake was created because of the eruption of Mount St. Helens. Castle Lake and Coldwater Lake resulted because debris dammed up the flow of Coldwater Creek. Coldwater Lake is located in parts of Skamania and Cowlitz counties in the surrounding area of the Coldwater Lake Recreational Area. Remember, the best way to enjoy and explore Mount St. Helens is to go hiking. Numerous hiking trails offer stunning views of the resultant devastation from the eruption, allowing whoever dares to visit ground zero of that eruption, as well as enjoy breathtaking and intimidating views of the crater. Harry's Ridge Trail is an incredible route that offers stunning views of the result and devastation from the eruption. This hike takes its visitors into the heart of the eruption, giving you the opportunity to peek down inside the massive crater. Most of the way, the trail takes hikers over the crater to Harry's Ridge. This ridge offers spectacular views of Mount St. Helens Crater, Spirit Lake, and Mount Adams. The trail was named after the old man of the mountain, Harry Randall Truman. This feisty 83-year-old man was the owner and operator of the Mount St. Helens Lodge at Spirit Lake, and he refused to evacuate in 1980 when the volcano became active. Unfortunately, Harry and his lodge didn't survive the main eruption and were buried under 150 feet of rock and ash. Johnston Ridge Observatory is located just 5.5 miles from the crater and was created after the eruption of the volcano. It features wonderful educational and interpretive displays that tell about the history of the eruption and stories of the lives that were touched by the blast. This ridge was named in honor of David Johnston, a volcanologist of the U.S. Geological Survey who was on duty that fateful day, Sunday, May 18, 1980. Johnston was one of 57 people who lost their lives that day. The Hummocks Trail is located on the north side of Mount St. Helens and is a must-visit destination. The trail runs along beautiful hummocks and clear ponds, with hummocks that form special knolls that were created after the eruption by blocks of the mountain summits. Visitors will be able to read about the geology of the hummocks on the signs, which can be found along the trail. These signs also remind hikers to stay on the trail, because this area is still a territory for research and study. Alder trees play an important part here, as they help to restore the habitat destroyed by the eruption. These trees convert nitrogen from the air to a different form that can be easily used by other plants. Their roots intensify the fertility of the soil. Many scientists thought that after the eruption, it would be difficult to restore the natural growth and wildlife in this region. But surprisingly, animals, birds, insects, as well as wildflowers returned here very quickly. Some trees and plants even survived the blast, even though they were covered with a layer of ash. In summer, especially in late summer, hikers will be treated to wildflowers in bloom, fireweed, Indian paintbrush, pearly everlasting, lupine, daisies, foxgloves, and ocean spray.